Welcome to Stories That Stay. Today, we will listen to a simple story that may seem ordinary, yet holds a lesson we only need to hear once, and it will become a reminder for a lifetime. More often than not, from the simplest moments, we find guidance on how to live a more meaningful and peaceful life. Listen until the end, for there may be a part that feels as if it is speaking directly to your heart.
The man was named Elias, and he lived alone in a small wooden house in a village hidden among green hills in the Swiss countryside. Since he was young, he had always believed that life should be filled with great achievements, endless luxuries, and praise from many people so he could feel worthy in the eyes of the world. Every day he worked tirelessly, traveling far to the big city to seek opportunities he was certain would change his fate forever, even if it meant leaving behind the very things that make him feel truly alive. To Elias, the quiet peacefulness he saw in the villagers seemed like a sign they simply did not have enough ambition to claim what they truly deserved. For years, Elias fought to build the version of success he had carried in his heart for so long, until at last he had a prestigious job, more money than he could ever spend, and a grand home in the heart of the bustling city. Yet the more he gained, the more he felt as if an important part of himself had slowly been left behind along the way. He would return each night to his spacious home that felt utterly empty, sitting alone surrounded by precious possessions that could never fill the void he had been chasing away for years. Sometimes he caught himself remembering his childhood, playing by the clear river with his friends, but he quickly brushed those memories aside as things that no longer mattered to someone striving to move forward.
Days turned into years, and Elias began to realize that all the praise and recognition he had earned never managed to touch the deepest, quietest part of his heart. He often woke up in the middle of the night, lost in deep confusion, wondering why, after gaining everything he had ever dreamed of, he felt far poorer than he had back in that small wooden house in the village. He tried to fill the emptiness with more work or trips to faraway places, but that hollow feeling only seemed to grow larger every time he turned away from what truly mattered. He did not yet understand that all this time he had been running after a shadow of success, while everything he truly needed had been left far behind him. One gray morning, Elias received news that the old house where he had grown up had fallen into disrepair and would be taken over by the village if no one came to care for it. Without a second thought, he left all his work behind and set off for the village he had not visited in years, carrying a mix of longing and fear at facing the past he had once walked away from. Along the way, the towering concrete buildings slowly gave way to lush green forests and winding paths that followed the clear, flowing river. Every sight he passed seemed to call forth memories he had locked away in the deepest corners of his mind for so long.
When the train finally pulled into the tiny, simple station, Elias stepped down, feeling as if time itself had stood still here all these years. Fresh air filled with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers filled his lungs, and he took a long, deep breath that seemed to ease the weight he had carried in his chest for so long. The winding stone path he walked was exactly as he remembered, lined with apple trees whose leaves swayed gently in the soft, cool breeze. Every step he took felt like touching a part of himself he had lost long ago, as if the very ground beneath him still recognized the footprints he had left there years before. When he finally stood before the wooden house where he had grown up, Elias stood still for a long time, just looking at the building. Worn and weathered, yet still warm and full of memories. Parts of the thatched roof had fallen away, the wooden walls had faded from years of rain and sun, and the old wooden fence leaned slightly to one side, as if greeting him with a gentle smile. He walked slowly and ran his hand along the rough wooden walls, which still felt warm against his skin, as if the house itself held memories of all the laughter, tears, and hopes that had grown with him there. The longing he had hidden away for so long rose up in his chest, making him realize just how far he had distanced himself, from the place that had given him life.
For the first few days, Elias simply cleaned the house and let himself grow accustomed once more to the slow, gentle rhythm of life in the village. He woke as the sun first rose over the horizon, swept the yard covered in fallen leaves, and drew water from the old well that still tasted cool and sweet against his lips. There were no endless phone calls, no urgent messages demanding an immediate reply, no deadlines that made his heart race the way they always had in the big city. Every movement he made felt purposeful, every breath felt lighter, and slowly the heavy weight he had carried on his shoulders began to lift little by little each day. One afternoon, while sitting by the clear river behind his house, Elias noticed an old man sitting quietly fishing a short distance away. The old man wore simple, well-worn clothes, his face lined with years of smiles and life experience, yet his eyes held a calmness Elias had never found in anyone during all his years in the city. Even though he did not catch a single fish the whole time Elias watched him, the old man remained seated with a gentle smile, as if celebrating something far beyond what the eye could see. This sight made Elias begin to wonder deep within himself what true happiness really was and how he had misunderstood it for so long.
As the sky began to darken and the old man gathered his things to leave, Elias found the courage to speak to him with genuine respect. The old man turned and smiled warmly, as if he had been waiting for Elias to come along, and invited him to walk slowly beside the river toward his home not far away. Along the way, they spoke of small things that those busy chasing the world often miss, of water that flows endlessly yet always remains calm, of trees that stand firm against strong winds, yet never fight back with force. Elias listened closely to every word, feeling as if each simple sentence touched the deepest part of his heart. When they reached Lucas's home, simple yet neat and warm, they sat on the porch sipping cups of warm tea he had prepared himself. The old man, whose name was Lucas, began to tell Elias how he had once been a wealthy merchant who had spent half his life chasing wealth and fame just as Elias had. He spoke of how often he had felt tired and confused even when he had everything, until one day he realized he had lost the ability to enjoy the small things that were truly the source of all happiness. Lucas spoke in a calm tone, with no trace of regret, as if every step of that journey had been necessary to finally find the peace he now held.
Lucas then spoke softly but firmly, saying that true success is never measured by how much we possess, but by how much we are able to give, and how peaceful our heart remains through every season of life. He explained that we often run so fast after things we do not truly need, simply because we fear being seen as less or unworthy in the eyes of others. Yet our worth is never defined by what we own or what we achieve, but by who we truly are, and how we treat ourselves and everyone around us. These words settled into Elias's heart like rain on dry earth, slowly breaking down the walls he had built around his mind for so long. That night, Elias walked back to his house feeling entirely different, as if the heavy burden he had carried for years had lifted away without struggle. He sat in the old wooden chair on his porch, looking up at a sky filled with stars that seemed so much closer and brighter than they ever had in the city, where artificial light drowned them out. For the first time in longer than he could remember, he felt no need to be anyone else or prove anything to anyone. He only needed to be himself, here and now, with all his strengths and all his flaws. He realized that all this time he had been searching for happiness in all the wrong places, in lifeless things and fleeting praise, when true happiness had always been found in the peace that comes only when we learn to be at peace with ourselves.
In the days that followed, Elias began to realize he never had to choose between success and peace. They could walk together hand in hand, so long as he understood which one was truly the destination. He began to plan his return to the city, but this time in a different way. No longer running after shadows, but walking calmly, carrying the truths he had found again here in his village. He understood he did not need to leave behind everything he had built, but he did need to change what he held as truly important. Everything that once felt urgent and irreplaceable now fell into proper place. each thing having its own space in a life that felt far more balanced and whole. When the day of his departure came, Elias walked slowly toward the station, looking around at the village that now seemed more beautiful and meaningful than ever before. He paused for a moment to wave to Lucas, who stood outside his home, smiling with understanding, as if he knew Elias had found what had been missing from his life for so long. The journey back to the city no longer felt like returning to a place of exhaustion, but like carrying home a treasure beyond price, an understanding of life that he would carry with him wherever he went. He knew his journey was far from over, but now he walked with the right direction and a heart that had finally found its true place.
The train slowly pulled away from the small station, carrying Elias back toward the big city he had once believed was the whole point of his life. This time, though, the sights passing by the window no longer filled him with restless ambition, but with quiet reflection on how completely his view of everything had shifted. He realized the city itself had not changed. The tall buildings still stood firm, the lights still blazed bright, people still rushed against time. What had changed was how he saw and felt it all from within his own heart. This shift had not come from gaining something new, but from finally letting go of what he had mistakenly believed made life valuable. When he stepped back into his spacious apartment, Elias no longer felt the pride that used to swell in his chest every time he entered this place he had once dreamed of. What had once felt like a symbol of success now felt like nothing more than a comfortable shelter, not something he needed to guard or prove himself through. He began unpacking slowly, setting aside many precious things he had never truly used, realizing he had collected them all to fill a void that only peace and genuine connection could ever satisfy. Every object he touched seemed to speak of time spent chasing things that could never truly fulfill him, yet he felt no regret, for without walking that path, he would never have known where he truly belonged.
The next day, Elias returned to his grand workplace. Yet this time his steps were free of the anxiety over what others might think of him. He greeted colleagues with a genuine smile, not one shaped by gain or appearance, and carried out every task with calm dedication and full responsibility. Many noticed the change, yet could not quite say what was different. He was no less diligent or capable. He simply no longer let his work rule his whole life or define his worth as a person. He understood now that work was only a part of life, not life itself, and every achievement he earned was no longer a burden he had to carry forever, but a fruit of effort he could enjoy with an open heart. As days passed, Elias began to change how he spent his free time. Once filled with costly yet empty luxuries, now he preferred walking through the city park at sunset, sitting quietly on a bench watching people pass by, or simply sipping warm tea on his porch while reflecting in peace. He learned that true happiness never comes from what money can buy, but from our ability to enjoy the simple things that have always been there, yet often go unseen because our eyes are fixed on the wrong things. Small things like a gentle breeze, the sound of children laughing, or sunlight touching your skin held far more joy than all the riches he had ever gathered.
The change was never perfectly smooth. There were still days when Elias felt pulled back into the old ways of thinking that had stuck with him for so long. Sometimes he grew anxious watching others rush past him, or heard praise that tempted him to measure himself against others, just as he once had. But whenever those feelings rose, he would take a long breath and remember that old wooden house by the river, the stillness of the water, and Lucas's smile that understood everything without needing many words. He learned that slipping back did not mean he had failed. It was simply part of learning to stand firm in what he now knew to be true, and what mattered most was how he returned to his path with a steadier heart. In time, those around Elias began to see a real shift, even though he rarely spoke of what had happened to him. He no longer spoke of achievements or possessions, but listened more deeply to others, and never rushed through conversations or work. People found themselves feeling calm and at ease around him. He no longer carried the pressure to be perfect or better than anyone else, but radiated a quiet peace that made everyone feel accepted just as they were. Elias came to see that true influence never comes from force or show,
but from the sincerity and peace that naturally shine from within. One day, Elias decided to gather all he no longer needed and give it to those who truly required it. Not for praise or fame, but because he understood that what we hold is only entrusted to us to share with others. He felt a joy he had never known watching faces light up with gratitude, a lightness spreading through him as if every gift loosened another tie that had bound him to unnecessary things. He learned that the ability to give is a sign that we already have enough, and that feeling of enough was the very key to the peace he had searched for everywhere. As the year drew near its end, Elias looked back on a journey that had taken so little time, yet changed everything about him. He realized no mistake had been wasted, no step had been in vain, so long as we are willing to open our hearts and learn along the way. What he had once seen as failure or lost time had become his most precious teacher, leading him to Lucas, back to his village, and finally to himself. He no longer grieved the time he had lost, but gave thanks that it had all been a bridge, carrying him toward a far deeper understanding of what life truly means.
A few weeks later, Elias returned to the village, not to escape or hide, but to visit and share what he had learned with Lucas and the people there. He came no longer as someone who had lost his way, but as one who had found his way back to himself and wanted to carry that truth wherever life took him. He sat once more on the porch of that old house with Lucas, telling him how people in the city had begun to shift their view when they saw someone who could succeed yet remain humble and at peace. Lucas listened with a gentle smile, as if he had known all along, for simple truth always finds its way into a heart that is ready to receive it. In that moment, Elias understood his greatest purpose was not to be the most successful or well-known, but to show that one could have everything, yet still keep a heart that is true and simple. He no longer felt he needed to change the world in grand ways, but simply in how he walked, spoke, and treated everyone with kindness and respect. For he knew that lasting change always begins within ourselves, and when one person finds peace within, they become a quiet light that guides others who are still searching for their way.
Back in the city, Elias built a life that balanced his duties with time for himself and those he cared for. He learned to say no to what did not matter, so he could say yes to what truly did. Time with old friends, letters to family he had once neglected, or simply rest that let his soul breathe freely. Once he had thought rest was laziness or failure, but now he knew rest was part of growing, just as soil must sometimes lie fallow to grow strong again. That balance made him whole, no longer a machine turning endlessly without knowing where it was going. One night, sitting quietly on his porch in the city, Elias realized his journey would never end at one single place. It would continue for as long as he lived. Every day was a new chance to look within, make sure he had not wandered off course, and strengthen what he had learned. He knew there would be bright days and cloudy ones, easy times and hard ones, but he no longer feared, for he now carried the most precious treasure, knowing who he was and what truly mattered. No one could ever take that away, for it had become woven into the very core of who he was. As this part of his journey drew to a close, Elias understood his story was never about someone who gained wealth then lost it. It was about someone who finally found a treasure no amount of money could ever measure. He learned we do not need to travel far or suffer greatly to understand life's meaning. We only need to pause, breathe deeply, and look honestly and openly within ourselves. So often the answers we search for have been there all along. We simply run too fast after the world to stop and listen to the quiet voice of our own heart. Elias now knew that every person walks their own path, and no way is absolutely right or wrong. Every step we take is part of becoming who we truly are. He no longer judged those still chasing what he once had, but felt gentle hope that one day they too would wake up to the truth. He learned to accept everyone as they are, honoring each person's time and process, for he knew deeply how hard it is to let go of what we believe in until we are ready to do so from within. At the end of this part of his story, Elias realized the greatest change had never been in what he owned or achieved, but in how he felt and valued every single moment. Things that once seemed ordinary now felt precious beyond measure, and what he had once chased so desperately no longer mattered at all. He knew he still had so much to learn, so far to go, but now he walked with everything he needed to meet whatever came with a calm heart and open hope. And he gave thanks that a journey born of restlessness had finally led him to the peace he had searched for all his life. Time moved on, carrying Elias through all the different seasons of life, yet the truth he had found in that village never faded. Now he returned often to that old wooden house, not to escape, but to refill his heart when the noise of the world had worn it thin. He cared for it with great tenderness, mending what was broken, planting what had withered, as if tending to the most honest and pure part of himself. Every time he stood on that porch, looking out over the wide fields, he remembered how small we are in this vast world, yet how precious a heart that can truly feel and value all things with sincerity. One afternoon, Lucas spoke of a great river that always flowed calmly even when huge stones blocked its path. It never stopped or forced its way through, but simply flowed around every obstacle until it reached the wide open sea. Elias listened closely and realized life was just the same. Obstacles would always come, but if we stayed calm and followed the true rhythm of our hearts, we would reach our destination without breaking anything or hurting anyone. True strength is never the power to rule or conquer, but the courage to remain gentle and steady, even when carrying the heaviest of burdens.
As the years passed, those around Elias began to see that his peace was not something that came by chance or luck. It was built from the small choices he made every single day. He chose kindness when tired, forgiveness when hurt, gratitude when things were scarce, and rest when the world demanded he run faster. These simple choices slowly built a quiet shelter within his heart, protecting him from both praise and criticism, plenty and loss. He understood we can never control what happens outside of us, but we hold full power over what happens within our own hearts and minds. One day, Elias heard news that someone he had once seen as his greatest rival had fallen into deep hardship. Once, he might have felt satisfied or thought it was what they deserved. Yet now, his heart held only compassion and a genuine wish to help. He visited this person, not to show off or lecture, but simply to be there and say that falling is part of life. What matters most is how we rise again with wiser hearts. Watching them slowly lift their head, Elias realized that hatred and rivalry are nothing more than heavy burdens we never need to carry at all.
The years carried Lucas gently toward his twilight years, yet his smile and calm never faded. One late autumn day, he called Elias to his home and told him he was ready to go, not with fear or sadness, but with gratitude and peace for the life he had lived. He told Elias that the greatest legacy we can leave behind is never money or land, but the seeds of kindness and peace we plant in the hearts of those whose lives we touch. Elias listened with tears in his eyes, yet they were not tears of Cain, only deep gratitude for having known someone so simple, yet filled with such extraordinary wisdom. After Lucas's passing, Elias did not feel empty or lost as he had once feared, for he knew Lucas had never truly left. Every word, every smile, every moment of peace he had shared now lived within Elias, and his task was simply to pass that light to others who were still searching. He shared his story with anyone willing to listen, not to teach or preach, but simply to say that life can be lived calmly even when the world rushes all around us. He learned that wisdom is like a candle. When you light another from your flame, you lose nothing of your own light. You only help the glow reach further into the dark.
Now Elias no longer hurried to reach some distant place or become someone else, for he had learned that life is not a destination we arrive at, but the way we walk every step along the way. He savored every moment given to him, working or resting, with others or quietly alone. He knew now that true peace is never found far away or in some future day. It is always here, right now, if only we open our hearts and accept everything exactly as it comes, with gratitude. Many asked Elias what secret gave him such peace, and he always answered simply, he had only learned to stop trying to be like everyone else and started being fully himself. He told how he had once run chasing shadows of success until he realized shadows only exist when you turn your back to the light. When he finally turned to face the light, he no longer wanted to chase something endless. He could finally see the path that had always been there, clear and bright, full of hope and calm. That old wooden house no longer looked worn or empty. It had become a warm resting place for anyone lost or tired of the world's noise. Elias kept its doors wide open for all who needed rest, a story, or simply a moment of silence beside the quiet river. There was no difference between rich and poor, success and failure. Everyone was welcomed exactly as they were, with respect and true kindness. He knew the house was never truly his. It belonged to anyone who needed a place to find their way back home to themselves.
Sometimes Elias still thought of his younger self, full of ambition and worry, but he no longer felt sad or ashamed. Instead, he gave thanks to that younger self, for every winding step had led him to Lucas, back to his village, and finally to the truth of what life means. He knew every part of our lives, the joyous and the painful, is a piece of the puzzle that shows us who we truly are. No moment is wasted if we learn from it and grow into someone kinder, wiser, and more whole. To this day, the river behind the house still flows calmly onward. The trees still stand firm through every season, and the fields still give life to those who care for them with honest hands. All of it remains an everlasting reminder that simple truth never changes, no matter how loud or fast the world becomes. We do not need to run fast or own everything to feel worthy. We only need to be ourselves, do good where we can, and keep our hearts steady, no matter what storms may come. Many might think Elias had lost his drive or ambition, yet the opposite was true. He now carried a far greater, more meaningful purpose, because he knew exactly where his energy belonged. He no longer strove for praise or admiration, but to give, to help, and to live each day with truth and kindness. The ambition that once weighed him down had turned into a gentle calling that carried him forward without fear or haste.
And in the end, Elias understood his story was never grand or special. It was simple and ordinary, just like yours and mine. We all get lost. We all take wrong turns. We all believe happiness lies far away at the end of some great achievement. But if we pause, breathe deeply, and look within, we find we already carry everything we need to live a meaningful, happy life. The ability to love, to give thanks, and to be at peace with ourselves. Elias's story teaches us that we often travel far outside ourselves to find what has always been within. We climb the highest mountains, cross the widest seas, and gather every precious thing, only to find the home we were searching for was always inside us. The peace we long for is never out there somewhere. It grows within us when we accept ourselves, value what we already have, and live with honesty and truth. May this simple story stay with you always. You do not need to be someone else to be worthy. You do not need everything to be happy, and you do not need to run endlessly to find your way. For deep within you lie all the strength, wisdom, and peace you will ever need to live a beautiful life. Just pause, breathe deeply, and listen to the quiet voice of your own heart, for the simplest truths are often the ones that stay with us for a lifetime.
This is a simple story about a man's journey to finally rediscover the true meaning of life. As we've heard together, the answers we seek often don't come from faraway places or luxurious things, but from the simplicity of a heart willing to open and learn.
Hopefully, this story can be a gentle reminder for all of us to appreciate ourselves more, be calmer in our steps, and be more sincere in living each day. If any part of this story touched your heart, please share it with those you care about, or keep it as a reflection when your heart feels tired or confused. Thank you for listening until the end. Don't forget to rest in peace, and we'll be back again with another story that will hopefully stay in your heart too. See you in the next story. Rest in peace.